And that was very precious because we were able to take measured drawings and then restore it exactly the way it was. So simple examples of people narrating stories, and from those stories you build preservation, because none of this is documented except in people's lived memories.
Okay, thank you. Teresa, I wonder if you can tell us why it is that you wouldn't trust a developer.
Well, they've shown to have broken a lot of promises in the past, and these two that we're talking about with the Castro Theater, Another Planet redeveloped the Oakland Fox. And they did a good job with that theater, but they also promised the donors at that time that they would be showing movies, it would be multi-purpose, and all they do is show rock concerts. So based on their prior experience with the Fox Theater, we don't really trust them to take over the Castro and incorporate the community and its events and other things, that we think they're just going to do rock concerts and that's it. And then in the other situation, the Berkeley developer, he also has he's done in the past, he's lied about what he was going to do.
Thank you. Okay, Fabio, question for you. To what extent were restoration architects involved in the process of renewing the Salomon buildings?
Well, the initiative was organized and directed by the National Commission of Monuments. So there is the president and 10 members, and among the members I was in charge of coordinating the whole program. Inside the National Commission of Monuments, there are restoration architects that gave advice to local architects that work as officials of the municipal governments. Each of these towns, or there are counties, that is the capital of county, what we call departamento or partido, they have a small office that is sort of direction of public works, and they have architects there. And although they are not trained in historic preservation, they work under the supervision of these restoration architects of the National Commission of Monuments. Most of the Salamone buildings and sites are in the National Register, how you call National Register of Historic Places, National Commission, National Monuments in Argentina. So there is a sort of, and they are not private. The owners of the Salamone works are the municipal governments. So the national government, through the Ministry of Public Works, is financing the restoration work, giving the municipal governments the money, and the direction of public works of each municipality organizes the bidding. Before that, they prepare the project under the supervision of the National Commission of Monuments. So this is the organization of the whole work and process. It's different from the United States, or what Atul has shown, that is private buildings, you know. In the case I have shown is all of them are public buildings.
Thank you. Kathleen, congratulations on the Motor Club and the Post Office. Both wonderful examples of what we call adaptive reuse in the preservation game. Would you like to comment on how those plans for adaptive reuse came about?
I don't know a lot of specifics, except that with the post office, it was a long, long story. The British developer bought the building. He had this plan that would extend across the Chicago River, and then at one time a different developer, there were many different stages that I didn't mention, but one of the problems with adapting the post office is that it's such a huge building, and it doesn't have a lot of light in the interior because you were processing mail and you didn't really need the light. And so what are you going to do with it? So one developer actually proposed cutting a hole in the middle of the building, making it into a light court. But then the proposal that was eventually accepted was the one that we have now, and it did not alter the configuration of the building, but they've used the space quite well, even though certain parts are not illuminated. There's a health club in there, there's a boxing ring, which is for not for performances, but for people who like to box for activity. There's a lot of lounges for the tenants of the building. You could rent the space out for events, and they've done a really, really good job of working with that space. The motor club, again, sat vacant for so many years. The conversion to a residential building, I think, failed because this was before our Millennium Park, if you know Millennium Park. This was before Millennium Park opened, and there wasn't a lot of activity on the south side of the river. In the early evening, you'd walk by there and it's kind of deserted. And I just don't think it was a very attractive location, and the condos were pretty pricey. And if you're going to buy a condo there, you're going to spend that much. Why don't you buy something up on North Michigan Avenue or on the Gold Coast? So I think the conversion to a Hampton hotel was a really good idea. And I know that the New York, the Art Deco Society of New York did a trip to Chicago. They stayed in the Hampton Inn.
So does anyone have any questions for any of our lecturers?
I'd just like to know if there's a great book with illustrations on Salomone's work that you can recommend.
Yes, there are recently the sort of book with photographs on the work of Salomone, of young photographers or artists. I can get that for you because Salomone started to be studied in the 1990s, late 1990s, with a small exposition in Buenos Aires, in the Cultural Center. So, and there are several documentaries that are online on the Salomone work also. But there is, and there are sort of inventory books that were made by the University of Mar del Plata, but they're out of print. So there is a good book on Salomone to be completed and presented. There is an article on the Journal of Decorative Propaganda Arts from 1983, I think. Yeah, one first article. But it's not a complete survey, some of his work.
Okay, we had another question. Henry?
Atul, I would never begin my day without reading the Hindustan Times. Your article 4 or 5 days ago is spectacular. And just as a suggestion, I hope you can give it broader circulation, both locally in Miami. You tie what's going on in Mumbai directly with some of our features here, like the Lincoln Theater. And I think every member of the Congress, and certainly the metropolitan community, would enjoy it. So thank you very much for that. How did you find the local authorities and your dealings with them in the work you did at Swastik Court?
I think the local authorities are best left alone. So if you can just do your work, submit your plans, and hope they don't interfere too much, they have many other priorities and they don't have enough bandwidth or the sensibility to ensure proper restoration projects. So we typically maintain a very low profile and don't engage with them at all. And in Swastik Court, I think it's a fine example of partnership between residents, tenants, the owner, architect, contractor, and us.
Here's another question.
Atul, I'm curious to know how you decide what projects to work on.
I'm sorry, who was the question for? Atul.
Great question, Rita. Swastik was our first project, and we gave it everything we had, and I'm really happy to share that we completed Swastik, published the book, and we now have 9 projects on hand, and we're actually struggling to cope, and we've decided to kind of go easy on new projects till we complete the existing projects. So it's very encouraging.
Anyone else? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So my question's for you.
Especially for the cases in San Francisco and Chicago. What about for some of the movie theaters you try to say, and what has happened, you show how little by little we were disintegrated in a way. What about the transfers of air rights? Because it's something that started here in the state, in New York and other cities. It's also in this part of in the American continent where the urban issue is not homogeneous, like in Europe, for instance. You have high-rise buildings, small buildings, sometimes also in Argentina, in the big cities, the heterogeneous urban issue allows you to get some more air rights just adjacent to that building. So you can put everything together and allow more stories yes.
That's one idea. Fabio was talking about getting air rights, like swapping air rights, which the group that's doing the Berkeley UA, they are trying to look into that. And it kind of requires a little city planning, expertise, and negotiations. And so they were going to start trying to talk to the developer to see if he has any other sites that he would consider, and then he could get better air rights and go higher because they need more housing. So yeah, they were thinking about doing that. It wasn't something that we even thought of for the California theater. I don't know if we would have succeeded.
But even violating the goals, not to build over, as you have shown, over the block of the theater, the high-rise apartment building, but adjacent in some other plots around that he can purchase and be allowed to build in height more than allowed by the usual, the actual code. That would be a solution. On the other hand, it has to set the whole piece of the whole land. This is a solution because I see here in the American continent, especially in the United States, in Argentina, late 19th century, and during the 20th century, the development of the cities is very heterogeneous, with changing urban codes and so on. So the result is part of our identity.
Okay, one of our lecturers after the break will be Tom Mooney, the head planner for the city of Miami Beach. So you may want to ask, raise that issue while he's here. Right now, we're going to take a break. And I'm sorry, we need to give people a break. We will begin again promptly in 12 minutes at 4 o'clock.